90% of people who attempt or commit suicide have a pre-existing mental illness. And mood disorders such as depression is the leading mental illness that can prompt somebody to suicide.
We have just talked about it here a few moments ago, the death of Robin Williams by an apparent suicide. And there is again that discussion of depression and what it means. But there's also something about the stigma of depression. Let us welcome in now from Newsmax, our Deputy Health Editor, Nick Tate, who stops by on a weekly basis, talks to us about health, other things as well. Welcome in. Good to see you back again.
Good to be here, man.
But unfortunately, we have to start with this. Dr. King just came on and talked a little bit about what it is, what the medicalese of this is. But there is a stigma that is certainly attached to this. And it doesn't make a difference if you're a celebrity or you're somebody just walking in the street. But when you tell somebody that you suffer from depression, there is that immediate pullback, and it's, oh my goodness, something's really wrong here.
That's right. I mean, Robin Williams is a pretty good example. Here's a guy who was worth $50 million, could have had any level of professional help that he wanted, but you wonder if that stigma was a factor that prevented him from getting the help that he needed. You know, right now we don't treat people who have mental illness in the same way that we treat people who have cancer, heart disease, or diabetes. We don't think of it as a biological disease, but in fact it is. And suicide, addiction, and other behaviors are clearly manifestations of that underlying disorder. So until we kind of get past that as society and stop viewing mental illness as a character flaw or something we can just control with will, I think more people are going to really suffer, and it obviously takes a huge toll not only on individuals but families as well.
Well, the doctors will tell you, the psychologists as well will say that you have to have some sort of mental control. You have to have an individual needs to want to help to control this, to find a way to make themselves better. But let's also then look at the medical side of things. As the doctor indicated and alluded to, there is a numbing agent that comes out here. We are still a society that believes pill it, pill it, pill it, put lots of drugs into it. Right. That can't help things, and that can't help the stigma either.
No, addiction, alcoholism, all these behaviors clearly make things worse. I mean, what often has happened is people are self-medicating. They're looking for some relief. They're looking for ways to cope, and so they think, well, I'll have a drink, you know, I'll take some drugs, I'll be able to deal. But it makes things absolutely worse. The hard part is, though, to face that down and say, just as if you have high cholesterol or hypertension, high blood pressure, well, what can I do to feel better? And you know, my hope is that cases like this, as tragic as they are, will really raise that awareness and move us forward.
It is so interesting, too, because one of the articles that you recently wrote on Newsmax.com was about moderate drinking, how much alcohol is too much. So we're looking again. It does come a little bit down to that self-medicating. Look, we're all adults here. You would hope that certainly somebody is able to drink responsibly. But I think people are doing that. Okay, how much is too much? Okay, I feel a little bit better here. Okay, maybe I don't need the pills today. That might be the most dangerous thing that I don't know if there's a way to actually attack that, because that happens in the sanctity of someone's home, and unless you see it, the family member sees it, there's nothing a doctor can really do.
That's right, and what they tell you is that close friends and family should really be on the lookout for all the things that we know about. You know, someone who has, you know, bouts of crying, sadness, depression, they withdraw. But there are also things to look for that I think Robin Williams' case emphasizes. Robin Williams was very, very self-deprecating in a lot of his humor. And in fact, if you have a friend or a family member whose humor is often about making fun of themselves, it may in fact be masking a deeper problem. So, you know, maybe laugh at the jokes and extend yourself and make that connection, but maybe it's time for a hard talk with someone and suggesting professional help may be in order as well. And that's where a friend and family member can help.
That's exactly right. That's where they need to. Let's move on to a couple of other things here. Some of the news going on. A new federal law aiming to curb childhood obesity. And it basically means cookies, cakes, and brownies may have to be replaced with fruit cups and granola bars in schools and school bake sales starting this fall. Wait a minute, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. We're an obese society. We are getting fatter every single day, and it's kids that are getting fatter because for whatever reason, I'm going to blame the parents in this case some ways. They don't watch what their kids eat. They wind up eating junk. So what's wrong with this?
Well, the problem here is that banning cookies and donuts and brownies at cupcakes at a school bake sale is not necessarily going to make kids eat a healthier diet. I mean, here's the practical reality. If you're a kid in junior high school or elementary school, and you're presented with the choice of buying a bag of carrots or granola or a fruit cup, are you going to do it, and is that really going to fundamentally change your diet? I mean, I don't want to make light of the fact that obesity is a huge epidemic in this country. I mean, 2 in 3 Americans are either overweight or obese, and kids are a real problem too. But I think that there are better ways to go about this, and there's even stronger ways that the federal government could get involved if they wanted to really have an effect. For instance, let me give you one example.
Please go.
The SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps. Right now, you can use those cards to buy, you know, Twinkies and cookies and chips and soda. Now, I'm not saying begrudging anybody's right to consume those things or buy them, but if we're spending billions of dollars a year for 45 million Americans to have help with supplemental nutrition assistance, maybe we should say, you can't buy junk food with that stuff. You should buy fruit, you should buy vegetables, you should buy healthier foods, whole grains, so that the kids are eating healthier meals at home. That's one. The other thing you can do is you can change the tax laws, you can change the regulations that deal with health insurance. Give me a credit for joining a health club. Give me a break on my premium. Give me a deduction if I join Weight Watchers. And the other thing you can do is just people need to really get really smart about how they eat, what
eat
they
less?
choose. Well, there's that. There's that too. But the point is, preaching it and telling people this is what you should do and passing federal laws that force your hand in this kind of nanny state isn't going to be effective, I don't think, as providing a financial incentive for people to make some good choices for themselves and their children.
All right.
My opinion.
About a minute left. Daily aspirin cutting cancer deaths by 40%. We've heard a lot about blood thinning as well, but what about this?
That's right. I mean, aspirin has been the frontline treatment for people who've had a heart attack to prevent heart disease. And the more research that's done, the more we're finding that aspirin is really a wonder drug when it comes to cancer. This new research shows that, in fact, it can lower heart disease, cancer, but for various cancers, stomach, esophagus, bowel cancers, by almost half if you take them a low-dose baby aspirin for 10 years or more. Now, this follows research that has found that aspirin also is protective against colorectal cancer, protective against pancreatic cancer, and we know that aspirin's been around for millennia. I mean, the ancient Greeks used it, a naturally occurring form of it in willow bark was used to lower fever and treat pain. Well, we now know from scientific analysis that a very close chemical cousin of aspirin was in that bark. So it's very well tolerated, been around for a long, long time. The more research that's done, the more we find it's a good thing.
The wonder drug.
The wonder drug.
Seriously, aspirin is. It's
sure.
all the time. 10 seconds.
Yes.
Real aspirin or the substitutes, which are better?
Well, the real aspirin is what they're really looking at, as opposed to other kinds of painkillers. And you need to be sure that you don't have, you're not on blood thinners. There are some people for whom aspirin is a problem. It can cause bleeding in some folks. So talk to your doctor before you take that baby aspirin.
Absolutely. Nick, always a pleasure to see you, my friend. Thanks
My
so
pleasure.
much. We'll see you again next
Thank you.
week. After the break, Nick will join me in wolfing down several boxes of cookies, and they'll be fully fat-loaded. Well, maybe. I just thought I'd say that because it sounded good. We're back right here on MidPoint.